"What's in the bag, Pastor?" The pastor attempts to answer but winces in pain as the lip has now become swollen. Not wishing to speak, he presents the young man with the satchel. Opening the bag, the young man's eyes grow wide to see its unusual contents. For within the bag is nothing less than several dozen little wooden crucifixes, approximately 2 inches long by an inch wide. The pastor reached into the bag and removed one of the wooden crosses. A small hole has been drilled to the top through which a string has been placed. The pastor places it around the young man's neck, declaring, "Keep this always." The young man queries as to what the pastor is going to do with the rest of the wooden talisman. Dabbing his wounded mouth, he allows his eyes to answer by gazing at the young man reassuringly. Tapping the sheriff on the shoulder, he motions his head, whereupon the patrol car speeds away, traveling down the road. They go from house to house, each time stopping long enough for the pastor to exit and enter the various homes and small shacks. There, the wooden symbols of Roman justice and man's salvation are placed in the hands of adults and around the necks of children. Kevin, his mother and sisters all receiving one, even Trina received one, much to young Perkins' consternation. Even faithful old shotgun's master, Mr. Grimes, was presented with a cross. Jubal, even that poor soul, received one. Bessie May and Miss Emma, as well as Silas, accepted the gracious offer, none refusing. Over and over the scene repeats itself, the ritual continuing on into the autumn night, until every single member of Niggertown finds themselves in possession of those small symbols of the Christian faith. All save for the mysterious Mr. Pickman. When presented with the crucifix, he crudely tosses it to the ground, stomping it into small pieces accompanied by mocking laughter. Eventually, the patrol car pulls up in front of Widow's home. A conversation ensues. The sheriff speaks to his brother, Pastor Jackson. What was all that about? You know, those crosses. It's damn near midnight. The sheriff, already disturbed by the day's event, questions. You know something I don't know. The pastor's swollen lip hinders his attempt to answer. From what young Perkins can make out, it sounded as if the pastor says, "Demon." The word sent a chill through the air. The sheriff and young Perkins become silent. Their minds ponder the pastor's meaning, that simple but malevolent word, demon. Denoting some sort of danger, some dark presence had crept into the Negro community. The young man wishes to question the pastor further, as does the sheriff, but it is apparent to the two that pastor's bloody, swollen lip defers further inquiries. The sheriff then turns to young Perkins and again re-emphasizes the necessity of secrecy. Thinking for a minute, the sheriff informs the young man that the storekeeper Bob needs a little help around the store. He said that he was going to talk about giving the young man something to do after school. The sheriff told Perkins that after school, the youth is to report to the sheriff's office, where the sheriff would introduce him to Bob. He informed young Perkins that he was to be Bob's new delivery boy. With a sardonic smile, he glares at him and adds, "Why smile, boy? You ought to thank me. You got yourself a job. You're a working man." The sheriff, laughing, gives young Perkins a slap on the back. Opening the car door, the sheriff roughly gives him a shove. The vigorous action sends the youth stumbling to the ground. The automobile tears down the road, leaving plumes of dust for young Perkins to choke on. Coughing and hacking, the young man walks up the driveway and entered the home. Opening the door, he softly calls the widow's name. Miss Hazel. Miss Hazel. The house remains silent. Carefully closing the door behind him, the young man locks and bolts the door, still remembering the nightmare of the night before. Walking through the hallway, the young man stops at the widow's door. Slowly turning the knob, he peeks in. Strangely, he is surprised to see no one there. The widow's bed is empty. Her room was indeed dark. The fact that plywood covered the broken window only added to the suspense. Suddenly, a beastly growl is heard from behind. Arms grab the terrified youth. Screaming in terror, he struggles only to be thrown to the widow's bed, grappling for his life. He begins screaming out the widow's name, frantically calling for God, for Jesus, or Abraham, Moses, Isaac, Isaiah, Jacob, Job, Ezekiel, Daniel, Pastor Jackson for anyone. A female voice erupts into hysterical laughter. His assailant was no one other than Miss Hazel. The widow had stayed up late waiting for the young man's return. She confided to Perkins that she thought it would be great sport to play a trick on him. "Surprised you, didn't I?" The widow's demeanor still laughing. Exhaling with relief, young Perkins sits up on the bed, turning his head. He glares at the widow, not finding any amusement in her clever little actions. "That's not funny," Perkins angrily states. His anger only adds to the widow's amusement. "You should have seen your face. You looked. Her laughter prevents her from finishing her sentence. Young Perkins loves Miss Hazel. He can't remain angry with her. To him, the widow's face is all the more lovelier when she laughed, her laughter becoming contagious. He also begins chuckling, the chuckling turning to laughter. A spirit of mirth closes young Perkins' eyes, drawing the curtain on what had been a stressful day. Fitful dreams end with the crow of the rooster. Sleepy eyes are called to open. The pleasant odor of bacon wafting into the room announcing breakfast. Pleasant smells lures young Perkins from the bed. Still clad in his pajamas, he walks the short distance through the hallway and peers around the corner at the young widow who is busily preparing breakfast. 4 thick slices of bacon sizzle in an iron skillet. The contents of a bowl happily await scrambling. Slices of toasted bread liberally buttered lay atop a saucer that rests near the skillet. The young man's maturity reveals itself as he pleasantly admires the widow's lovely form. How graceful she looked in the performance of her domesticity. Not wishing to be discovered, the young man rushes into the bathroom to attend to the customary morning rituals. As he exits the bathroom, he finds breakfast waiting on the table. The widow already attending to her meal. Gazing up, she casts a pleasant smile at young Perkins, and with a playful wink exclaims, "Scared you last night, didn't I? Didn't I?" The young man refuses to answer. He sits and begins to enjoy the lovely breakfast before him. As he eats, the widow could tell by his expression that the young man is still in a bit of a huff. "Ah, come on, don't be like that. Are we still friends?" Young Perkins frowned. "Ain't you my little man anymore?" The widow mimics young Perkins' frown. "Who's gonna protect me if you're gone?" With those words, young Perkins remembers the wooden cross. Pastor had given him an extra cross to present the widow. Rising from the table, he rushes from the kitchen and into the bedroom where he retrieves the wooden cross. Rushing back, he presents it to the widow. "What is this?" she questions. "Pastor Jackson told me to give this to you. He wants you to always keep in on, especially in the night. I've got one too. Matter of fact, that's what kept me out all night. I was with the sheriff. He drove us from house to house. Everybody here in Colored Town got one. He wants us all to wear one. You know, because of what happened the other night." Withholding the fact that he indeed knows the true origin of the demonic fiend, he simply says, "Will you wear it for me, Ms.?" He catches himself halting his formality. Young Perkins presents a pleasant smile and request with a warm familiarity. "Please, Hazel, I'm not mad at you. Please wear this for your little man." Touched by the young man's display of emotion, she gladly accepts and dons the cross, tucking the wooden portion under her blouse. The ring of the school bell summons young Perkins from the house where he leaves the widow standing in the doorway. As the widow's home grows small in the distance, he can hear the young widow calling out to him, informing him that she may be late coming home. She says she's going to pay a few calls on some of the church elders. With a wave of his hand, he acknowledges her words. As he journeys towards school, he is passed by the various students, all of which sport the pastor's protective talisman. Young Perkins is well pleased to see everyone, even the school bully who rushes past, roughly brushing against him, causing him to stumble. Even he wears the wooden symbol of salvation. A pair of hands catch hold as he stumbles, preventing him from falling. Young Perkins turns. Joy of all joys, young Perkins beamed with pleasure to see the funny, grinning face of his old pal, Kevin. "Kevin!" Perkins loudly yells. Yippies and yahoos and other such verbal expressions of exuberance all the while clasping his companion in a tight, air-restricting bear hug.